I always get so excited when a new Doctor No Sleep drops. So a new Doctor No Sleep has dropped. Let me see if I got all that I need to get. Yeah, I've got it going on. No introductions needed and all that. Dr. Nicely.
Well then, that is unfortunate, said Duncan coolly, staring up at the terminal's departures board. The status of the family's connecting flight to Cleveland had just changed, from check-in open to delayed. But on the bright side, we've got some time to grab a bite to eat before boarding. To Duncan's left, his 15-year-old son Jaden shrugged. Jaden had in earbuds and his full attention was on his phone. To Duncan's right, his wife shook her head and sighed. Janet Cooley was straining under the weight of their 4-year-old daughter, Haley, who was still feeling sick from their first flight. "I just want to get home, Duncan," Janet whispered, adjusting her grip on the girl. "And then I need a vacation." We've just been on vacation, hon." Exactly. All around them in the airport terminal.
Moms always need more vacations, let's be honest.
People moved about in tangled lines, passengers hurrying to their gates, to the bathrooms, to grab a cup of coffee and a croissant. The wheels of rolling suitcases rattled and bumped across the tiled floor. Gate agents chatted behind their desks or argued with Karens, while janitors emptied trash cans and airport staff in neon vests pushed elderly travelers in wheelchairs. In her mother's arms, little Haley began to whine. "My tummy hurts." "I know, baby, but Mommy's arms are falling asleep." "I'll hold her, Janet. Here, honey, I got you." Just as he reached for his daughter, a short man with a gray ponytail and terrible BO shoved his way between the husband and wife and shook his fist up at the departure screen. Now that's some bullshit!" the ponytailed man shouted. Janet scoffed down at him. "Language, sir, please!" Cupping a hand over Haley's ear, she...
I've always wondered, like, do you curse less in front of kids as a child-free person? I just talk like myself, and if they hear stuff, they hear stuff. Especially because I've seen Afrikaans parents just like when they're yelling, swear at their kids, so their kids know that this is swearing, but I'm not allowed to use it. Only the adults are allowed to use it.
Looked up at her husband, but Duncan had turned to look up at the screen again, his expression serious. Beneath the flight to Cleveland, the flight to Columbus had also changed to delayed. And the flights to Dallas, to Denver, to Detroit, the whole board, every flight. "What the hell even is this shit? There ain't no stay." Could just be a technical problem.
I've never been on a flight. I've never been in an airport. I don't get this frustration because delays don't happen with taxis, so can't relate.
"Maybe," Duncan mumbled. He glanced around the terminal, where the paths of passengers were shifting, joining together, like iron filings in a magnetic field, to gather around the mounted screens. Or it could be an ATC ground stop, or... "Aw, man!" interrupted teenage Jaden, taking out one earbud and holding up his phone. "The airport Wi-Fi stopped working, and I don't have any service all of a sudden. Do you guys?" The parents exchanged another heavy look.
That's always my priority, the Wi-Fi. I swear that's always my priority. Like, I can get through anything if there's Wi-Fi.
Then moved as one, gathering the family, grabbing their carry-ons and hurrying off down the terminal. Some crazy Karen in a fur coat had started screaming uncontrollably at the gate agent. Whatever's going
She even has Karen hair. I know people think the Karen hairstyle is that like meme with Kate Gosselin from Kate Plus 8, but this is also giving Karen.
on? They better figure it out soon. We are not sleeping in this airport tonight. I'd rather rent a car. That'd be a 12-hour drive, hon. A door banged open on their left, and an airplane technician in coveralls and a reflective vest sprinted suddenly across the hall, nearly knocking over Jaden in his rush. Hey! What the hell, man? Jaden grunted, rubbing at his shoulder where the man bumped him. This place is going crazy. Language, his mother chastised, though.
Crazy? You can't say crazy. What are you, Mormons?
Without much conviction, Janet's gaze was now fixed out the gate windows to their right. Duncan, there, look. Duncan turned, his eyes narrowed. Just beyond the parked plane outside, a line of olive green trucks was barreling along the runway. Well, those aren't luggage carts. Others started to notice, and many people broke away from the screens to gather at the windows to watch, as more and more military vehicles pulled into view. Utility Humvees, personnel carriers, transport trucks.
What is happening? It's giving apocalypse.
Some braked to let out soldiers in full gear, who ran to the planes, to the workers, or toward the airport. Duncan led the family over to a waiting area, peering out the glass at the strange scene unfolding in real time. Janet set Haley on her feet. The girl yawned, then reached up to grab her mother's hand to rub her cheek against it. Whoa, said Jaden, raising one hand to lean against the window as he looked out. That's a lot of soldiers. Dad, you know what's going on? Duncan lifted his gaze to the empty, cloudless sky. Big ground response, but no air support. Odd. Another dad, holding a sleeping infant, looked over at Duncan. Hey, dude, you military?
Can I make a prediction? Like, everybody's gonna be stuck here and be claustrophobic and go crazy. And I think there's some people that are gonna kill people.
Then? Duncan nodded. Retired, yeah. Army logistics. So all this gotta be like a response to a terrorist threat, right? Before Duncan could answer, the short asshole with the ponytail coughed a laugh. He had come to stand just beside them, arms crossed.
That baby has a gigantic head. Am I the only one noticing this? It's like Mr. Pops from Regular Show.
Bullshit! Ain't no terrorists coming here to Kansas City. This is just the government being goddamn disruptive. Probably a false flag operation or some shit. Well, I ain't putting up with it, no sir. Huffing, the man twisted around, nearly hitting Jaden in the face with his ponytail, and headed off toward baggage claim in the airport's exit. A lot of other passengers were already rushing that way. Janet and Jaden both looked at Duncan, who straightened up and smiled back at them reassuringly. It'll be fine, guys. It's probably just a precaution. From down the hall, voices rose up in shock and anger. Duncan's smile wavered. But I do want to check it out.
It's giving home affairs. You know when you've been in the line the whole time and then it's like 5 o'clock and they're closing. It's giving home affairs.
Come on, stay close together. Leaning to pick up Haley, he led the family down the hall toward the commotion. As they got closer, an icy dread settled in Duncan's stomach at the sight of soldiers marching into the terminal, their weapons drawn. Oh God, murmured Janet, clutching at Duncan's arm.
Aibo. This I cannot predict what's next.
As the coolies joined the crowd, many of those in front were already screaming at the line of the soldiers, demanding to know what's going on.
This is unconstitutional! You work for us, you know, and we want answers. If I have a panic attack right now, I will literally go apeshit!
Duncan didn't mind the crowd's reaction. Their behavior was to be expected. But what did worry him was the look in the soldier's eyes. Something was very, very wrong. An officer stepped forward from the line, his hands crossed behind his back, his expression just as alarming as those of the troops. Janet's hand tightened on her husband's elbow.
Stand the hell back!
The commanding officer screamed at the crowd.
This airport is under federal lockdown until further notice. You all need to return to the gates and await further instructions. I am a free citizen!
Screamed Ponytail, who stood in the front of the crowd, directly ahead of where the coolies were huddled, watching.
And you have no...
I'm sorry, doesn't lockdown mean there's someone dangerous in the area? Or yeah, usually lockdown is for your safety.
authority over me!
The brave fool marched forward, heading straight toward the exit.
You're gonna die.
In response, the officer drew his sidearm.
I said stand back!
The Karen who threatened to go apeshit did just that, throwing up her arms and screaming like a 30-year-old toddler. Some people tried to rush away, shoving against those around them, while others held up their phones to record videos and shout at the soldiers.
We need to stay calm and listen to them.
Duncan called out, even
Nothing scares me like mass hysteria. Because once it starts, it doesn't stop. If one person goes crazy, everybody's gonna start going crazy at a certain situation. I think that's why on flights they basically say, they basically don't say if something is wrong, because of mass hysteria and the fact that panic does not solve anything.
as his wife tugged him by the sleeve, trying to pull them back into the hall.
You have no claim on my soul!
Declared Ponytail to the soldiers, with the gun aimed at his face.
And no claim on my land!
And he raised a fist into the air. Duncan sensed what was about to happen. Clutching Haley to his chest, he spun in place. One gunshot rang out. Bang! And as a fine spray of blood hit the crowd, the place erupted in screams. Duncan grabbed a handful of Jaden's jacket and yanked his son into a run. Hundreds of feet pounded the tiled floor as people ran in every direction at
Mass hysteria.
once. Shoving their way through the chaos, the coolies raced down the hall, jumping over fallen carry-ons. Behind them, gunfire sounded again. The pop-pop-pop of a semi-auto. A window shattered.
This is great!
Also, where are you guys running to? Like, I know there's like danger happening, but where are you gonna go? Like, where are we going right now?
Easy!
Moaned Jaden, lying between his parents. In her father's arms, little Haley was stunned into silence. Her balled-up fists dug into the back of Duncan's neck as he sprinted. Reaching a closed restaurant, Duncan turned and led them all inside the dim room. Ducking and motioning for the others to do likewise, they crept through the empty tables to the windowed wall at the far side and crouched, panting.
What the hell is happening?
Asked Jaden.
Why did he just shy? He just shot him!
Sweat tangled on Duncan's cheeks, and setting down his daughter, he clutched at a stitch in his side.
They're very shaken up.
Duncan thought out loud.
Of course we are! No.
Duncan knows something. Yeah, Duncan knows something.
Duncan looked from his son to his wife and exhaled.
The soldiers, they're terrified.
Jaden choked on a sob. Janet put an arm around him and swallowed.
We'll be fine.
She said, forcing herself to smile.
We just need to listen to your father. He knows what to do. He knows.
But Duncan was staring out the window, out across the airport grounds, where a small plane, probably a private jet, was speeding down an adjoining runway with 2 military vehicles in rapid pursuit. Janet and Jaden turned to watch him as the jet leaned back and began its ascent. Then a missile whizzed up from below, hit the plane in a fiery burst, and the aircraft
Bin Laden? Is that you?
fell and crashed to the earth with a flash and a rolling, thunderous boom.
Oh, Jesus!
Said Janet, clutching a hand to her mouth.
Daddy! Why are you all wet?
Can you rob a train? I mean a plane. Can you rob a plane? Just wondering.
Jaden gasped, and when Janet turned back to her husband and glanced down, her eyes went wide. Duncan watched the fall from the crash rise and cool into a column of black cloud. Then he blinked, and looking down, he pulled aside his jacket. Dark red seeped across his shirt.
Oh,
He said, his knees buckling.
well that...
Please don't tell me you're gonna turn into a zombie. Please don't tell me you're hiding the fact that you're gonna turn into a zombie.
That's unfortunate.
Duncan? Duncan!
Two teenagers moved through the darkness of the baggage conveyor tunnel.
Oh wow, no solution to that story? Like, okay.
Jaden coolly led the way, holding out his right hand
Oh, part 2.
to feel along the cold concrete wall, and holding the duffel bag of precious goods in his left. It was the second time he had made this dangerous journey, taking medicines and snacks to trade with the people who had settled in Concourse B after the Battle of the Food Court. They had to be careful, of course, but to be honest, Jaden liked making the journey. He welcomed any excitement. It got so boring just sitting in baggage claim, hour after hour, with the luggage stacked up in barriers all around them, and his little sister whining that she was hungry, and that she wanted Daddy, and that it was so smelly and dark in there. And his mother, Jaden, hated being near her and seeing the empty expression in her eyes. Besides, volunteering to do this trade meant Jaden could spend time alone with Talia. She was 17 and admittedly way out of his league. Smart, pretty, and far more tough than Jaden was, no doubt about that. Talia wasn't the sort of girl Jaden would have the balls to approach under usual circumstances. But this was different. And when this whole lockdown nightmare was over, when the military let the people out, then Jaden was determined to keep in touch with Talia. He had even written down her number on a piece of paper and everything, because there hadn't been power to charge his phone since that first day. "I think we're getting close." In the dark, Talia scoffed. "Nope, only halfway." "Really? Oh, yeah, I think you're right." They moved on in silence. Jaden's sinuses tingled at the smell of burned rubber emanating from the motionless conveyor belt beneath them. And there was another scent in the air today, growing stronger as they walked. It was like the smoke from a campfire. That was a good sign. Maybe Concourse B had managed to catch rats or pigeons. Jaden and Talia would be heroes if they returned to baggage claim with real...
Things are bad. If you're looking for pigeons to eat, things are bad.
meat. "Hey, Talia?" said Jaden, mustering his courage to make conversation while they were alone. "I was thinking about that thing that Miss Lazy Eye was saying, about the airport lockdowns being a sign of biblical end times, and I think..." In the dark, Talia scoffed. "Miss Lazy Eye's a crazy bitch, Jaden. She's an idiot." "Well, yeah. Yeah, I know. What if she's like, half right? He waited to see if she'd laugh at him, and when she didn't, he went on. So, her whole theory is that planes started falling from the sky because Jesus came back and snatched up all the Christians or whatever, right? And that's why the military freaked out and... Which doesn't make any sense. Which doesn't make any sense. Yeah, totally. But what if something else was messing with aircraft and it scared the...
When things are this uncertain, you're gonna look for answers anywhere and everywhere. Whether you get the answer right, you can't say. That's why in atheism we've just accepted that we don't know. We don't know. We cannot definitely say, okay, this is what's real or this is what's gonna happen. We don't have the hubris to do that. We don't have the faith, willpower to just lock in and believe this thing. It just doesn't make sense. There's too many things to believe. And logic is a very human thing.
The government so much they sent in the army. Jaden's shin banged a pipe and he grunted. Quiet. Jaden rubbed at his shin.
By the way, whatever logic you come to, if it gives you peace and it's not harmful to others or even yourself, then that's good. Peace is good.
Shin, annoyed, but then he felt Talia lay a hand on his back in the dark, and the pain in his shin vanished, replaced by butterflies in his stomach. Or was that just his hunger? Keep moving and give me the bag. I'll lead. Jaden might have been embarrassed, but as she moved past him in the dark, their bodies pressed together, and as her fingertips slid down his arm to his hand, his butterflies flew in loop-de-loops. She grabbed the straps of the duffel bag and pulled it from him, then started forward again. Yeah, okay. Thanks. Swallowing, he set off after her. Anyways, like I was saying, at first I thought maybe there was a crazy solar flare or something, like a natural EMP, which took out satellites and radar and stuff. But then I thought, maybe, just maybe, it was actually... Do not say it, Jaden. Don't say aliens. Jaden's cheeks flushed, and he was glad it was too dark for her to see him clearly. Well, I mean, what else could have caused all this? Shh! They both froze. They could hear the muted footsteps from the ceiling above, and the smell of smoke and cooking meat was definitely getting stronger. War, Talia whispered, when the footsteps had moved away.
Cooking meat. Why am I afraid that's human flesh?
That's what's happening. It's war. It's always war. She turned to face him, her shape a black silhouette in a world of dark grays. You want my theory? The enemy pulled something big, found a way to hack planes and send hundreds crashing to the ground or something like that. And the army didn't know who was responsible. So they just locked down every airport, every passenger, until they could get to the bottom of it. Jaden crept closer to her. Okay, but then why are we still here? Why'd they cut off the power and the water? Why don't they send in food? Why don't they tell us anything? I don't know. Maybe the war went nuclear.
Because they don't know either.
Maybe the whole federal government has collapsed, and the army doesn't know what to do now. So they're just following their last order. For a frickin' month? No way! He snickered, but Talia went very still. What? Are you serious? Jaden, how long do you think it's been? He shrugged. I don't know. Forever it feels like. 8 days, she said. Then she sighed, turned, and moved quietly down the final stretch of tunnel. Jaden followed, shaking his head in confusion, and tried to catalog the insane events since his family walked off their flight and into this cursed airport. Day 1. Now that was hard to forget. The army had marched in and opened fire when people tried to leave. And then the power went out, and the soldiers took the dead and exited the airport. Jaden's mom couldn't stop screaming when they took Jaden's dad out, holding his limp body by the feet and shoulders. Where had they taken him? No idea. That first night, they could hear the military setting up barriers outside, all around the airport grounds. Day 2, people started getting really restless, and dozens tried to sneak out and climb the barricades. Sniper bullets had taken them out one by one, popping their heads like bloody balloons and leaving their bodies tangled in the barbed wire. Day 3, that's when the food ran out. Nobody could believe it. All those airport restaurants, the shops, the catering facilities, it all seemed like a ton of food. But there were thousands of people trapped inside now, not just passengers, but TSA, airline staff, retail workers, maintenance workers, flight attendants, a couple dozen pilots. Lots of mouths to feed. And when people get hungry, they got wild. Day 4 was the tipping point. It was the plumbing that did it. Once the water pressure ran low and sewage started backing up, the odor of the shit and piss filled the airport and pushed everyone over the edge. A fight broke out in the food court. It was brutal, and Jaden had to scoop up his sister Haley and grab his mom by the hand. He had taken them through security, running along with a couple hundred others, through check-in and out into the open air. The day was cold and foggy, and there was a smell outside, acrid and smoky, like burning rubber and metal and chemicals. Someone said it was the city, the whole of Kansas City, just up the road, burning. But Jaden didn't know. Gunfire had sounded from the parking garage across the street. So loud, so bright even. All those weapons firing at once. Bodies fell in waves, whole families just toppling over on the sidewalk or slumping onto the abandoned taxis by the curb. Jaden's mom had frozen again, and he had managed to get them back inside, barely.
I wonder who's worse off, the people inside or the people outside. I'm just wondering.
By the time the sun rose outside, the smoky windows on day 5, everyone left alive had been forced to join one of the factions. The coolies were in baggage claim, which was a good choice. A lot of good, smart people were in that group, and all the luggage they controlled meant they had a lot of extra supplies. Supplies which they could trade with the factions in Concourse A, the lounges, the food court, or Concourse B. Plus, Talia and her family were in baggage claim. But how many days since day 5? Was it really? Yeah, just 3 days. Holy crap, Jaden mumbled, as a dull gray light from the staircase up ahead revealed the pipes and walls and wires around them. You're right, 8 frickin' days. Damn, who asked people would go crazy that fast? Anyone who understands human nature, that's who. Talia slowed as they approached the employees' stairwell, which went up to the ground floor at Concourse B. A line of dusty light shone between a pair of double doors above them. She stopped on the bottom stairs, sniffing the air. Reaching to her belt, Talia pulled out the steak knife she kept in a sheath made from a leather passport wallet. Think about New Orleans after Katrina hit, she whispered, examining her weapon's edge in the dim light. Or the aftermath of the Haitian earthquake in 2010, Yugoslavia in the 90s, the Russian Revolution, the Holocaust, for God's sake. Okay, but what's your point? She turned to him. The point is, when civilization collapses, it is not measured in years or even days, but in hours. Jaden nodded. Oh, yeah.
Clock that tea. Clock that tea. Because I'm sure when Hitler came into power in 1933, no one thought it would be 12 years. I'm sure Holocaust survivors and non-survivors were just not even going through daily. hour to hour, because you had selections, you had labor, you had hunger, you live hour by hour.
I gotcha, yeah. Cool. So, are we going up? Whatever they're cooking smells crazy good. Yes, it does. Here. She handed Jaden back the duffel bag, then crept up the stairs, holding out the knife before her. Jaden thought she was being a little dramatic, but followed, trying to move as quietly as she did. Reaching the top of the stairs, Talia pushed on the doors, careful not to let them squeak. Once there was enough room to squeeze through, she slid from view. Jaden hurried up and out, the duffel bag scraping against the door. Sorry, he whispered. But even that whispered apology made Talia's eyes flash with irritation. They were in a dim hallway, the smell of human waste wafting from the bathroom doors there, and they hurried toward the daylight at the end of the hall. As he stepped out onto the carpeted floor of Gate B12, even Jaden could sense the danger lurking nearby. The hairs on his arms stood up, and his heart began to race. When they had come here yesterday, trading medication bottles for a tray of sodas liberated from one of Concourse B's vending machines, the area had been crowded with families and staff members, gathered under makeshift tents along the windowed walls. Now, the gate was a mess. The tents torn and loose clothing and carry-ons and discarded playing cards tossed about. Talia tapped him on the arm, and when he looked at her, she pointed around the corner at the main hallway and again held a finger to her lips. Jaden listened and heard a few men chatting and chuckling and the crackling of a fire. A haze of smoke was in the air, thick with the smell of meat. Crouching,
Cannibalism. It's the only thing that makes sense. Cannibalism.
they moved to the corner. Jaden popped his head around to look, but after less than a second, Talia yanked him back. But he had seen enough, though. More than enough. Oh my God! Dozens of bodies were piled across the hall at Gate 9B, stripped naked, their limbs limp and bloody. In the center of the hall, standing with their backs to him, some men stood beside a stack of...
They really put him there like a rotisserie chicken. I cannot. Like, this is what mass hysteria leads to if it extends beyond 2 days a day, if it extends on a day.
broken wooden pallets, looking down at a fire blazing on the tiles at their feet. The flames rose up to a large chunk of meat on a makeshift spit. That meat was in a shape he recognized. A human head and torso, wet and charred and dripping. Jaden still hadn't processed what it all meant when Talia tugged him by the sleeve and started back the way they had come, creeping swiftly toward the doors. Jaden turned to follow her, his vision unfocused, his brain all foggy. Then he tripped on his own shoes, stumbled sideways, and reaching out to find his balance, felt his...
Please don't let your partner in a situation like this be a boy. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sure boys feel the same way about girls. But this boy is slow as hell. And she's doing most of the thinking.
grip on the duffel bag slipped. The bag hit the carpet with a thud. He winced and froze in place, then screamed as hands grabbed him from behind. Jaden didn't fight back. He couldn't. His whole body seized up, sneakers glued to the floor, arms stiff at his sides, and fists tightened around his elbows. Talia did not freeze up. Jaden watched as she sprinted toward the hall, but a man rushed by him and grabbed her by one shoulder.
And you shouldn't feel betrayed by that. You fell. That was not her fault that you fell. She was doing great until you fell. It's your fault. And in terms of survival skills, girl, it's you. It's you. Everybody else doesn't matter. It's like you said, it's hour for hour.
She spun. The knife in her hand whistled through the air. The man grunted and staggered backward, blood dripping from his face. But two more guys charged, each armed with a golf club, and after a few seconds of snarling, swinging, and slashing, the knife was on the floor, and Talia was being dragged, kicking and biting, into the hall. Jayden let himself be led after her, coming back around in sight of the naked corpses and the roasting torso. He still couldn't get his body to resist. Even his eyes were frozen open.
"Looky, we found Captain!"
grunted the bleeding man whom Talia had slashed.
"A couple stowaways, and with a bag of goodies, too."
The man they addressed as Captain stood across the fire, his back to them, his arms raised to clutch at either end of a golf club resting across his shoulders. The club head had nails extending out on every side, like some medieval weapon. He was short, with greasy, bleach-blonde hair sticking out from beneath a crooked airline captain's hat. He wore a fur coat, and when he turned to face the teenagers, they saw that under the coat, he had an oil-stained jumpsuit, a heavy gold chain necklace, and a pair of Balenciaga sneakers. There was a name tag on his chest, Mike Crunch, Aircraft Maintenance.
Well,
He said, looking them up and down.
what's your story then? Been hiding in a closet somewhere bumping uglies? Or else? Nah, you two are either from the lounges or else baggage claim.
He grinned.
This here is some first-class meal service, ain't it, gents? The food comes to us.
The other men laughed, and arms tightened their grip. Talia began to struggle again, and it took two of them to hold her still. Captain Crunch lowered his spiked club.
Believe me, kids, when I say that our actions here are necessary. All this fun is just beginning.
He looked from his weapon to Talia, and his grin widened.
You can't!
She screamed.
You can't just kill everyone at once! Idiot! The meat will spoil! Think about it!
A few of the guys laughed again, but their leader's smile vanished, and he cocked his head.
Good point. Just break your legs and tie you to a column.
Jayden blinked, coming gradually out of his disassociation. He had peed in his jeans, and there were tears in his eyes. He wanted to say something clever or useful, something to get them out of this nightmare. But when he opened his dry mouth, the only words that came out were,
8 days.
Their captor swung his gaze to the boy.
8 days, you say?
He clicked his tongue.
8 days. So far. But I've been sending someone out every hour, testing the blockade at various places. The soldiers are dug in, focused. They won't let anyone through. And no wonder. See, y'all didn't hear what I heard before the power cut. I know what's happening out there. Oh, yeah. And it's everywhere. It's the whole damn world. Now we're living in the dark ages to point zero.
His eyes flashed with deadly excitement. Jayden swallowed.
Why? What happened? How did it start?
The captain shrugged.
What the fuck does that matter?
He turned to a pair of his guys.
Lucky, get the harness straps. Checks. Break their ankles, will ya?
Wait!
Talia called out.
You need us!
For a moment, Jayden felt a rush of hope in his stomach at her words. Talia had a plan. Of course she did. She was smart. She was a survivor.
Baggage claim has barricaded themselves in.
She went on.
They have weapons. Weapons we found in the luggage. 2 pistols, ammunition, a machete, a hatchet, and there's more food. You'll need baggage claim.
Jayden gawked at her. Their families were in there. Why would she?
You could get them on your own. I know you could, but it would be difficult. A battle.
Maybe I misunderstood how much she wants to survive. Yeah.
You'd lose, guys. But we...
If I recall, she's here alone. She's not here with her parents or anything like that. So fuck them kids. Fuck them people.
He can get you in. We know the way. And they're expecting us back. They'll let us in, I promise.
Across the sizzling human meat, Aircraft maintenance member Mike Crunch wrinkled his nose, then nodded.
Okie dokie, but surely I don't.
It's possible she has a plan in terms of like what's gonna happen when they get there, but I don't know. She's very smart, but I wonder how far her smartness goes.
Need both of you for that.
For a moment, Jaden and Talia were still, staring at each other. Then the girl moved in a blur, twisting from her captor's grip, kneeing the man between the legs, then turning and kicking at the blazing fires. Embers sprang into the air and the torso on its spit fell onto the floor. Jaden saw the captain raise an arm to shield his eyes from the sparks, when Talia jumped at him and tore the golf club from his grip. She had done it! She could fight them! They could get away and... The spiked club head struck Jaden across the face, knocking him sideways in his captor's grip. He went stiff, and bits of skin falling to the tiled floor. Then the hands that held him let go.
Mara, you were useless. To be honest, you were useless. I know it sounds evil, but you become evil to survive at this point.
And he fell onto his side. Talia moved to stand above him, bringing the club up, then down, then up again and down again, until his body stopped twitching. Straightening up, her hair disheveled and sweat on her cheeks, she exhaled and handed the bloody club back to its owner. Captain Crunch accepted it, examining the mess of skin and hair stuck on the nails.
She's as smart as she is evil. Interesting.
Then he laughed.
Now that was cold,
He said, smirking.
You're quite the little frosted flake, ain't ya?
He turned to her and tipped his hat.
Welcome to the crew. I do hope you're hungry.
Talia inhaled deeply, her eyes set.
Starved.
But
When dawn broke on the 44th day since the lockdown began, only a faint glow of sunlight pierced through the haze outside the cracked and filthy windows. The airport was mostly quiet. There was the drip, drip, drip of dirty water from the makeshift reservoirs on the roof down to the collection barrels, and the dry cough of someone curled beneath a mound of blankets in one corner. And then, the wobbly wheels of a luggage cart being pushed around the corner, followed by soft, shuffling steps. The woman hunched behind the cart was gaunt and sickly pale, not unlike the skeletons she was collecting. All those bits of bone, no flesh or even marrow left behind, their edges notched with the marks of human teeth. Slowing her cart, the woman leaned to pick up a small skull from in front of gate A12. The skull had once belonged to a girl named Haley Cooley, though no one was left who remembered her name. As the woman turned to set the bone upon her cart, a door squeaked open and footsteps approached. She gasped and dropped the skull, which fell with a hollow thud onto the tiles at her feet. Two people approached the woman, and when she saw who they were and the golf clubs in their hands, she sank into a bow and said,
Master Sergeant Frosty and Sergeant Pebbles, a grim morning to you both. I do hope the captain is well.
The club leaders exchanged a look. Then Talia set the end of her weapon on the floor, leaned on it, and sighed.
Look around, Helen. The psychos aren't here. They're
I think this is her type. Like, the other one was weak and whatnot. This one might be as evil as her. This might be Harley Quinn and the Joker over here.
all sleeping at check-in. They can't hear us.
Even now, after all that had happened, there was conviction in the teenager's voice, though it hurt to speak. Talia's gums had started to bleed the week before. She was so thin now, so tired, so nauseous day and night. Her flesh, feeding only upon the flesh of others, had wilted, and her mind would go next. She could feel it starting to happen, as it had happened to so many others.
Captain Crunch hears all,
Responded the woman, bowing deeper.
I am proud to serve and to gather the bones.
Oh, Jesus, give it a break.
Said the man with the other golf club, rolling his eyes.
Enough of this bone gather shit.
You are Helen. I am Jihoon. This is Talia. And Mike Crunch.
Jihoon sneered, but even his bold voice lowered as he said the next words about their mad ruler.
Is a goddamn lunatic.
Helen began to tremble.
No. You mustn't say that. He'll cut us up. He'll cut us up and make us eat ourselves before we fade. I must gather the bones.
She grabbed her cart and tried to hurry away, but Talia seized her by the arm.
Listen, Helen, we have a plan. Do you hear me? A plan to leave this place. But we need your help. And we need to go. Right now.
Helen hung her head.
I am the gatherer of bones. No, Helen,
said Talia.
You're a pilot. Remember? With Delta Airlines. That's why you were here. And it's why we need you now. I must gather the bones,
she called out again. But Jihoon raised his club and smacked her lightly across the head. She winced, blinked, and looked back at them with some hint of the woman she once was. Still afraid, yes, but finally able to listen.
You are an airline pilot,
Talia went on, releasing the woman's arm.
Now listen, the Ember Storm has burned up almost everything outside, but there is still one plane left, over on runway 1R. It was taxiing when the world went dark. It's just sitting there. It's intact, it's fueled, it's ready to go,
added Jihoon.
There might be some soot and dust in the engines, and some smoke damage, but you can get it airborne, right?
Helen swallowed, her hollow cheeks twitching, her eyes blinking very fast.
That is possible if we get the APU to start. But the pitot will be clogged with ash. Airspeed readings will be impossible and... wait, no! We can't leave! The darkness is everywhere! We don't know that for sure. The US military responded to the initial emergency.
Yeah, they don't know what's out there. This might be like a FLDS situation where you're told like the outside world is evil or something. I don't know. Could what out there be worse? I don't think so, because outside still looks somewhat decent.
Emergency, and our power grid went out. But the rest of the world?
He shrugged.
But where? Canada. That's where we need to go. We fly due north to Winnipeg. Maybe they're doing better than us.
Helen shook her head.
Or maybe they're doing worse.
Talia sniffed a laugh, then leaned to pick up the child's meatless skull from the floor and tossed it onto the cart.
How could things be worse?
For a moment, Helen's expression relaxed, and she looked less like a zombie and more like a human again. But then a fresh wave of fear passed over her face.
But the soldiers! If we go out there, they'll shoot us or shoot down the plane!
Jihoon shook his head.
We haven't heard a gunshot in days. The army is all gone. We're all dead. The only thing keeping us marooned in here now is our fear. Well, that and Crunch's mad obsession with hunting down any survivors of the loungers. If he has his way, we'll all be bones by this time next week.
As Helen thought this over, rubbing the handle of the cart in her skeletal hands, Talia turned and looked out through the grimy windows, past the burnt-out shells of planes and vehicles, to the debris-strewn runways, to the charred grasses and the silent barricades in the distance.
We are leaving. Today, we are getting on that plane. You are flying us out of here. There's no other choice.
Helen stared into Talia's face, which, like Helen's, now looked 20 years older than her true age. Yet there was still a hint of defiant hope in her eyes. Helen nodded. Half an hour later, all eyes turned to Talia as she reached to pull the chain off the doors and shoved them open. Talia held her breath and took the first step outside. The air was thin and smoky.
Okay, maybe it is bad outside. I don't know.
And hard to breathe.
How does it look?
Asked Helen's voice from the shadows within. Talia turned and shrugged.
Like shit. Now come on, everyone, before the psychos know we're gone.
Out they came, a dozen of the last survivors. Each was skin bones, with sunken eyes and shaking hands. They moved like ghosts, hunched and quiet, too afraid to blink or to look back at the airport windows or the rooftop. Ji-hoon came out last of all, and shutting the doors behind them, he slid his golf club through the handles to seal them shut. Then he turned and hurried south after the others, moving around the burnt-out shell of a military Humvee before breaking into a run. From up ahead, Talia turned her head to glance back at him, and he saw her eyes flick up and behind him. Then pain shot through Ji-hoon's right shoulder blade and into his chest, and he pitched forward onto his knees. His right arm went numb, but he clung with his left hand to the bloody length of rebar protruding from just below his collarbone. He tried to take a breath, but his lungs didn't work, and there was so much blood, and he was so cold. As Ji-hoon fell dead upon the asphalt, Talia watched the spearman on the roof grab for another weapon to throw, screaming over his shoulder as he did so.
Mutiny! Fetch the captain! The cowardly scum are trying to...
So there's crazy people everywhere. There's a leader for a group of crazy people everywhere.
Flee!
Talia grunted.
Come on!
She yelled, gesturing at Helen to speed up.
Run!
The escapees sprinted south, then turned east, around an abandoned parking structure. Talia was out in front, and soon she could see the 737 over on the runway, but it was still so far away. Twisting her head as she ran, Talia watched the others, trying their best to keep up. But they all looked so exhausted, so scared, so weak. But Helen was the one that mattered. Doubling back, Talia rushed to grab the pilot by the elbow and help her along. That's when someone in the back of the group started to scream,
He's coming! He's coming!
Talia's ears picked up the rumble of a diesel engine, then the sound of squeaky tires and hooting laughter.
Fuck!
Talia mumbled, pulling Helen into a jog as a baggage tractor chugged into view, pulling a train of 3 flatbed dollies, each with a golf club-wielding maniac seated atop it. And in the driver's seat, one bony hand gripping the steering wheel, the other holding up his spiked club, was Captain Crunch. He still wore the captain's hat atop his head, though his face below its brim was like a yellow skull with dark eyes and a sneering, blood-stained smile. On his emaciated chest, the golden chain necklace jingled and sparkled.
This is your captain speaking!
Crunch declared, driving the tractor wildly, so that the dollies behind it swerved and drifted, and one his guys tipped out with a squeal.
Please return to the gate and await further instructions. Thank you!
Reaching the first of the runners, he veered left and right, knocking down the bodies of 2 scrambling women, then swung his club at the head of a young...
Things have escalated to madness at this point. Things have... And the constant mist as well. Like, basically hiding how bad things are.
man.
Hurry, Helen! We can do this!
Talia urged, cutting across a corner of charred lawn and guiding them to the plane. The cabin door was open, and a set of portable stairs sat idly at an angle next to the aircraft. Talia ran faster. Behind them, the luggage tractor bounced and crunched over someone else, and Captain Crunch let out a shrill whoop of laughter. Reaching the portable stairs, Talia snatched the cold metal and leaned against it, forcing the stairs back and over until they bumped against the plane. Helen was wheezing as she stepped up onto the stairs. Talia flew up behind her, shoving the woman forward. As they reached the top and hurtled inside, Crunch's voice rang out behind them.
Master Sergeant Frosty! Where you running off to? Hey, you mutinous bitch! Get in the cockpit!
Talia shouted to Helen. She spun in place in the back of the plane, blinking as her eyes adjusted to the light. The windows were sooty and the gray morning sky didn't help. Then she gasped. A corpse was sitting up in a flight attendant's jump seat, with the empty drawers of a storage cart tossed around on the floor around it. In the body's cold dead hand, there was a pistol. The corpse had been a soldier, and filthy camp fatigues and a chunk of his skull had been blasted off when he shot himself in the face, leaving a dark stain on the bulkhead behind him. Talia leaned and grabbed the pistol. Spinning back to the open door, she held up the gun in a 2-handed grip, aiming down at the runway, where the last of her people were being run down one by 1. Talia aimed at the oncoming luggage tractor.
Please be loaded.
she prayed, through gritted teeth. Captain Crunch looked up at her, his dark eyes flashing. Talia fired. The bullet went wide, but it pinged off the shaft of his golf club and swept off his captain's hat. The spiked club head spun in the air and landed on the greasy dome of his head. She saw him flinch, his left hand spasming on the steering wheel, and the tractor lurched, tipped, and fell onto its side with a screech of metal, the dollies behind it slamming against each other, tossing bodies into the hazy air.
Lady, can you just get into the cockpit, please?
Talia lowered the pistol, then reached out to grab the aircraft door.
Helen, get us the fuck out of here! What about the others?
Called Helen from the cockpit.
Fuck the others. Yeah, I said it.
Talia winced against the weight of the door as she pulled it shut, catching sight of a young couple racing up the portable stairs.
Wait! It's just us! Now fly!
The engine spluttered, coughing out clouds of ash as Talia reached the cockpit. The plane around them rattled, and the view outside the filthy windshield shifted as the plane rolled forward.
There we go,
said Talia, dropping into the jump seat behind the pilot's chair.
Winnipeg, we go!
In front of her, Helen's pale hand pushed the throttle forward, and the engines howled. Talia raised her right hand. She was still holding the pistol and wiped sweat from her forehead.
1 minute at a time,
She said to herself for the millionth time.
just 1 minute at a time. That's the trick. That's all you gotta do.
Her guts clenched and rolled as the jet's nose tipped up and the wheels rumbled for a second more, then lifted off the runway.
I think we might make it!
Talia looked up as the clouds above glowed silver. She exhaled, feeling dizzy. They reached the cloud ceiling, slipped into the gray mist, and all at once, the 737 began to shake and rattle. Talia winced, bouncing in her seat.
Almost through!
Helen assured her over the turbulence. And seconds later, they were out, soared above the clouds, and light, a pure, bright, and blinding whiteness, filled the cockpit. Helen screamed. Talia clasped her eyes shut, but it barely helped. The sky was so bright, so impossibly bright.
What is this?
Helen screamed.
This can't be! Sunlight!
Talia didn't answer. She didn't know. A shadow.
Maybe they're not used to sunlight anymore. It's been a long time. Maybe. Or maybe it's something else.
Whipped across her vision as something whooshed by the plane just outside the cockpit window. And another.
There's something out there!
Clasping her hands around her eyes, Talia opened them in a painful squint. There were shadows. Dozens of blurry shapes swooping against the blazing sky. Then something landed on the roof of the plane with the slamming boom, and footsteps sounded from over their heads, the many feet of something big.
Oh, God!
Whined Helen.
What is it?
Talia blinked and watched as a shape moved into view from above them. Bending over the windshield and twisting its long neck, it turned to stare inside, at them.
Whoa!
Talia swallowed.
It is aliens after all. Seems to be.
I think it's a...
Outside, the eldritch creature tipped its monstrous head. Its skin was violet, and 3 eyes of dazzling gold looked out from its terrible face. From its gaping mouth, 1,000 glassy teeth extended like shards of mirror. And as it crept further down onto the windshield, one arm extended into view, its long claws scratching against the glass. Talia could see one of its great wings of purple shade, which spread to cloak the cockpit in magenta shadow. And from the mouth of the winged messenger, there came a great sound, which vibrated the windshield and the airframe and the very bones in Talia's body, as it said, In the pilot's seat, Helen whimpered and curled up, trying to shrink, to make herself small before the horrible shame of the angel's words. Its clawed fingers tightened.
Ooh, this is interesting. So maybe he's not an alien, he's an angel. And he's saying, get back to Earth where you belong, to perish. Damn.
And the windshield cracked. Talia sighed. Talia raised the pistol, setting its barrel against her right temple. The other angels swooped upon the plane, seizing the roof and the wings and tail in their clawed grips to squeeze and smash, to render in ruin, to rip the aircraft apart at the seams.
Well,
Said Talia, her finger squeezing the trigger.
it was worth a shot.
The monsters shrieked as they ripped the plane open like a tin can. A final burst of freezing wind roared through the cabin. The muzzle flash flared against her temple as her world collapsed into perfect, merciful silence. To hear more stories like this, be sure to... I'll see you in the next one.
Okay, so it was aliens and angels. Okay, not even aliens, it was angels. I forget that there's places that depict angels as these horrific looking things that, yeah, hey, that's gonna be all of us. That's I'm ready for it. That's gonna be all of us. Cause somebody is gonna come down, Jesus or whoever, and is gonna be like, "What team are you on? No team." Unfortunately, I don't play teams. I'm trying to think of a sport that you do alone. I don't know. I don't do teams. Gymnastics. Thanks for watching with, and I'm done for the night.